Hello, welcome back. This is the beginning of the second homily in the Clementine Homilies. And so basically, what's happened is that you had this introduction between Clement and Kepha. Uh, we see that the first homily was essentially a letter that was being written to James. Um, I expect to see that theme continue in the recognitions. The entire recognitions were were parts of various letters that were written to James that were basically like a summary of Kepha's teachings, and it was something that was actually ordained by James. He said, "Look, I want you to send me the reports of Kepha's teachings, and I'm going to collect them here in Jerusalem, and so that we would have a record of what Kepha was teaching." And as I mentioned at the beginning of this is actually the first time I've read the entire uh, Clementine Homilies. I've read parts of it, and there's actually this particular version is one that comes from a Latin source, I believe, and there's some other Greek sources also, and then there's a Syriac. The Syriac was actually just translated into English for the first time uh, 2 or 3 years ago, and so you can get a copy of that on Amazon. Also, it's slightly different. It's actually the Syriac is part of the homilies, and as part of it is the recognitions. But anyway, so we're beginning with homily 2. It says, "Therefore, the next day I, Clement, awakening from sleep before dawn and learning that Kepha was astir and was conversing with his attendants concerning the worship of Elohim, there were 16 of them. I guess that would be the 16 of his attendants. And I have thought good to set forth their names, as I subsequently learned them, that you may know who they were. The first of them was Zacchaeus, who was once a publican, and Sophonius, his brother, Joseph, and his foster brother, Micaiah, Micaias, also Thomas and Eleazar, the twins, also Aeneas and Lazarus, the priest, besides also Eliasus and Benjamin, the sons of Saphras, and also Rubilus and Zacharias the builders, and Ananias and Haggeus the Jamianians, Jam-in-Aans, and Nicetas and Aquila the friends. Accordingly, I went in and saluted him, and at his request sat down." Okay, so we have 16 names. So yeah, the 16 people were the attendants that were gathered around Kepha. We got a footnote here at 917. It says, with but two exceptions, these names or their equivalents occur in the recognitions, where importance is attached to the number 12. Comparison of these lists favors the theory of a common documentary basis. So all except for two of these names are mentioned in the recognitions. Let's see here, Zacchaeus, who's once a publican. That's probably the Zacchaeus from the New Testament. And anyway, I don't guess there's really anything else to comment about there. Okay, so you have this introduction to Kepha's followers, and we'll move on to chapter 2. "And he, breaking off the discourse in which he was engaged, assured me, by way of apology, why he had not awakened me that I might hear his discourses, assigning as the reason the discomfort of my voyage. And he wished this to be dispelled. He had suffered me to sleep, for, said he, whenever the soul is distracted concerning some bodily want, it does not properly approach the instructions that are presented to it. On this account, I'm not willing to converse either with those who are greatly grieving through some calamity, or are immoderately angry, or are turned to the frenzy of love, or are suffering under bodily exhaustion, or are distressed with the cares of life, or are harassed with any other sufferings, whose soul, as I said, being downcast and sympathizing with the suffering body, occupies also its own intelligence therewith. Okay, so Kefa is basically saying, he's basically apologizing to Clement, saying, "Hey, yeah, I just wanted you to know, the only reason I didn't wake you up this morning along with everybody else is because you just came in from this journey, and I wanted to make sure you had enough rest." And that's probably the way that any of us would be, also. If you had a guest who just arrived after a long journey and they were kind of sleeping in the next day, you probably would not awaken them either. Um, and he says, "Let it not be said, is it not then proper to present comforts and admonitions to those who are in any bad case? To this I answer, that if indeed anyone is able, let him present them, but if not, let him bide his time. For I know that all things have their proper season." Um, so he's saying, that yeah, you can still present your case even if this person is under these um, stressful times, but you need to basically kind of use your discernment, I think is what he's saying. Wherefore, it is proper to ply men with words which strengthen the soul in anticipation of evil, so that if at any time any evil comes upon them, the mind, being forearmed with the right argument, may be able to bear up under that which befalls it. For then the mind knows, in the crisis of the struggle, to have recourse to him who succored it by good counsel. Okay, um, so what's he saying here? He's just talking about um, instructing other people. It says, "Wherefore it is proper to ply men with words which strengthen the soul in anticipation of evil." So, it's good to teach people things, something that would be edifying to them, so that if at any time any evil comes upon them, the mind, being forearmed with the right argument, may be able to bear up under that which befalls it. Okay, that's pretty simple. If you're basically preparing somebody for some evil argument. Um, for then the mind knows in the crisis of the struggle to have recourse to him who succored it by good counsel. Now, succored is not a word we're very familiar with. It means helped. So basically, it's saying, "For then the mind knows in the crisis of the struggle to have recourse to him who helped it by good counsel." So, um, maybe if you're not familiar with that word, it might give a little bit more clarity there, what he's saying. Okay. "However, I have learned, O Clement, how that in Alexandria Barnabas perfectly expounded to you the word respecting prophecy. Was it not so?" I answered, "Yes, and exceedingly well." Then Kefa, "Therefore it is not necessary now to occupy with the instruction which you know, the time which may serve for us for other instructions which you do not know." Then said I, "You have rightly said, O Kefa, but vouchsafe this for me, whose purpose always to attend upon you continually, to expound to me, and delighted here, the doctrine of the prophet. For apart from him, as I've learned from Barnabas, it's impossible to learn the truth." Okay, so, and this is something that's always so frustrating, that there's things that we haven't heard. Like, we don't know what it was that Barnabas taught him. But Keefa's just like, "Well, I'm not going to tell you that stuff." And, us, the reader, you're like, "Oh, but I want to know this. What was it that Barnabas said? What was this instruction? What was the instruction that Kefa um, gave to Clement, that Clement wrote down and sent to James from the last homily?" We don't have that part. And a lot of that's probably stuff that you'd be kind of chomping at the bit to get to hear. So he's basically saying to Kepha, I want you to teach me about the true prophet, which of course would be Yeshua. Chapter 5. And Kepha, being greatly pleased with this, answered, already hath the rectifying process taken its end, as regarding you, knowing as you do the greatness of the infallible prophecy, without which it is impossible for anyone to receive that which is supremely profitable. For of many and diverse blessings which are in the things that are, which are in the things which are, or which may be, the most blessed of all, whether it be eternal life or perpetual health, or perfect understanding, or light, or joy, or immortality, or whatever else there is, or that can be supremely good in the nature of things, cannot be possessed without first knowing things as they are. And this knowledge cannot be otherwise be ordained other than first becoming acquainted with the prophet of truth. Okay, so Kepha, he's basically pleased with Clement's enthusiasm for wanting to learn. Uh, but let's break this down. What he's saying here, because the way Kepha is presented here, of course, it's Kepha speaking and then Clement writing it down. So you almost got to think that Clement probably, um, made things very eloquent when Kepha would speak, because Clement was a very highly educated Roman citizen, so he was well versed in a lot of these schools of writing and um, liturgy and that kind of thing. And so he comes up with these very flowing discourses, and I wonder how much of that is from Kepha and how much of it's from Clement editing him. But anyway, it says, for of many and diverse blessings which are in the things which are, or may be, the most blessed of all. And then let's skip this clause and to make this one continuous thought. Which are in the things which are, or may be, the most blessed of all, cannot be possessed without first knowing things as they are, and this knowledge cannot otherwise be obtained than by first becoming acquainted with the prophet of truth. So if you want the best blessings, the best and most diverse blessings, you can't have them without first being acquainted with the prophet of truth. Now, what are these blessings? Well, now we can go back up to this clause. Eternal life, perpetual health, perfect understanding, light or joy or immortality or whatever else there is. So if you desire these things, if you want eternal life, if you want perpetual health or perfect understanding, in order to obtain that, first you have to become acquainted with the prophet of truth, the Navi Emet. And the Navi Emet, of course, is this true prophet doctrine of the Ebionites, and the true prophet, of course, is Yeshua. So hopefully that broke it down. It's just, it's the way my mind works a lot. Like when I see these sentences broken up with clauses, a lot of time you take out that center clause, or it's actually kind of like an aside. So if you skip straight from here to here, it makes it one simple sentence, and then from the simple sentence, you can go back in and add in the more complex part of it. Okay, chapter 6. Now the prophet of truth is he who always knows all things, things past as they were, things present as they are, things future as they shall be, sinless, merciful, always entrusted with the declaration of truth. Read, and you shall find that those were deceived who thought that they had found the truth of themselves. It says there's a footnote about what is deceived. Word deceived is not in the text, but the sense demands some expression should be supplied. So originally it said, he who knows all things, things past as they were, things present as they are, things future as they shall be, sinless, merciful, always entrusted with the declaration of truth. Read, and you shall find those who thought that they had found the truth of themselves. Hmm. Those were deceived who thought they had found the truth themselves. Yeah, I think it may give some clarity to the sentence, but I really think the sentence could be read without that. For this is peculiar to the prophet to declare the truth, even as it is peculiar to the sun to bring the day. So, peculiar, it would, like this is the thing that the prophet is known by. And I think that's the sense in which they're using peculiar. So it is peculiar to the prophet to declare the truth, just like it's peculiar to the sun to bring the day. Wherefore, as many have even desired to know the truth, but have not had the good fortune to learn it from him, having not found it, but have died seeking it. For how can he find the truth who seeks it from his own ignorance? And even if he find it, he does not know it, and passes it by as if it were not. Nor yet shall he be able to obtain possession of the truth from another who, in like manner, promises to him knowledge from ignorance, accepting only the knowledge of morality and things of that sort which can be known through reason, which affords to everyone the knowledge that he ought not to wrong another through his not wishing himself to be wronged. Okay, so I think there's some interesting things being said here, but let's go back and kind of take it a little bit slower. Um, Wherefore, as many as have ever even desired to know the truth, but have not had the good fortune to learn it from him, have not found it, but died seeking it. Okay, so that makes sense. A lot of people, of course, we know that. These people on a mission seeking after truth, and they don't find truth, and eventually uh, um, they pass away. For how can he find the truth who seeks it from his own ignorance? So I guess when I read that verse, it makes me think that he's talking about how can you find the truth if you are trying to reason within your mind to find the truth? Like you actually have to go out and seek it from the true prophet. And even if he find it, he does not know it and passes it by as if it were not. Um, and maybe I'm stretching the meaning of the sentence here, but this is something I think when I started studying this stuff, and I started studying the recognitions and the Ebionites and the um, some of the things that were said about the early followers of Yeshua by people like Epiphanius, um, and I began to share that stuff with people. A lot of people just they pass it by, and I'm not saying I had the market cornered on truth or anything like that, but uh, to me, when I started learning, like that was stuff I've been seeking after, and I wanted to know. It's like a burning question that's been in my heart was, what did the original followers of Yeshua believe and teach? Um, and I felt like something was missing out of the Bible. In the same way, a lot of people in the Hebraic roots movement, they say that they feel like that they were missing something in church, and so then they went back to the Bible and they found this thing that they thought was missing. And in that same respect, that's the way it began to come to me with regard to reading the Bible. Like I felt like there was just something that wasn't making sense. And to be honest with you, one thing that's always kind of confused me was why was it that Yahuwah, the creator of the universe, why would he demand animal sacrifices? He created the animals. So why would he need mankind to go out and gather animals together and bring to him and kill them? And that's something that after a while I kind of just set aside. I was like, well, obviously he did, and I don't really understand why, but it's something I accepted, and then I began to study some of the temple. There's some really good teachers out there that talk about the temple and the sacrifices and all this stuff. But, ultimately, when I came to this understanding, this knowledge that is in these documents where they say, for instance, in the recognitions, Kepha says that the sacrifices were never commanded by Elohim, that man had added those commandments afterward. That when they were in the wilderness, Moses never gave them the command to sacrifice animals. That it was all added after the fact, added by the priests. And to me, that rang true. And I know a lot of people, probably the people listening right now, don't agree with me and don't think that this is the truth. But to me, when I heard that, I I don't know how else to describe it. It was true. It made more sense to me than the alternative, which was that the Creator needed us to go and gather these animals together and bring them before Him and slay them. Um, and there's a passage in Luke, and I'm kind of going off the cuff right now. I don't remember exactly where it is. Seems like it may be Luke chapter 19 somewhere, but I don't know. But Yeshua, he's speaking in a parable about when the Son of Man returns, he's going to. I think he's talking about the vineyard owner, but he says that um, the king is going to say to bring those men before me who did not wish me to rule over them and slay them before me. And to me, it's almost like, well, why would he say that about the animals? Mankind has never wanted Yahuwah to rule over him. We as, I don't know if it's our human nature or what, but it's just something about us as humans. We don't want to be ruled over. And so we're always resistant to Elohim. And so, but animals are not. Animals fulfill their purpose. They are obedient to the mission and to the um, the will of the Father. Animals don't live in rebellion to Elohim, not as far as I can tell. So why would the king want us to bring the animals before him and slay them? That's like bringing his obedient servants before him and slaughtering them. And it never made sense. But what does make sense to me is Kepha saying that the sacrifices were not commanded and that this was revealed by Yeshua. And then what do we see Yeshua doing in the Gospels? He goes into the temple, he drives out the people buying and selling the sacrifices, and it says he wouldn't allow anyone to carry anything through the temple. What was he not allowing people to carry? He was not allowing people to carry the animals in for sacrifices. He stopped the sacrifice. Anyway, got off on a side note, but this is what I see, and it's my video, so I guess I guess I get to go off on tangents if I want to. But it says, even if he finds the truth, even if he finds the truth, he does not know it and passes it by as if it were not. So when you present this information to people, it's like so many people I've met that are just incapable of considering something written in the Bible may be an error, maybe something that's been added to it. And that Yeshua's mission was to come and restore the scripture back to the way it was originally before it was corrupted. I mean, in the book of Jeremiah, it says that the lying pen of the scribes has corrupted the Torah. So we know it's been corrupted, but many people don't want to accept that. Nor yet shall he be able to obtain possession of the truth from another who, in like manner, promises him knowledge from ignorance, accepting only the knowledge of morality and things of that sort, which can be known through reason, which affords to everyone the knowledge that he ought not to wrong another through his not wishing himself to be wrong. So we can know morality. If I'm understanding what Keith is saying, he goes, look, the only truth you can really possess without the true prophet is you can know morality. do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Like that's something we can all understand. We can all understand thou shalt not kill because we don't want to be killed. We can all understand, do not, steal because we don't want to be stolen from. So that's all something that we can obtain through our own effort. But that's the limit to how much truth we can get without the true prophet. Again, this interpret chapter 6. Okay. All therefore, whoever sought trusting to them to be able to find it, fell into a snare. This is what both the philosophers of the Greeks and the more intelligent of the barbarians have suffered. For applying themselves to things visible, they have given decisions by means, thinking that that was truth, which at any time presented itself to them as such. For like persons who know the truth, they still seeking the truth reject some of the suppositions that are presented to them and lay hold of others as if they knew while they do not know what things are true and what are false. And they dogmatize concerning truth, even those who are seeking after truth, not knowing that he who seeks truth cannot learn it from his own wandering. For not even said he recognize her when she stands by him, since he is unacquainted with her. Okay, so who is her? Well, her would be truth, and this is something you see in the Tanakh, and you see it a lot in the Gnostic stuff too. Like they kind of take it to an extreme, but this whole personification of knowledge or wisdom or truth into this female that you seek after. Um, and so basically, that's kind of what it's like a figure of speech, is what Kefa's using. So he's talking about truth as if it was a woman that you're pursuing. Okay, so let's break this down. So, therefore, whoever sought the truth, trusting to themselves be able to find it, fell into a snare. He's saying you can't find the truth by yourself, I think. This is what both the philosophers of the Greeks and more intelligent of the barbarians have suffered for applying themselves to things visible. So what would this be? This sounds like science, the science of evolution. So they look at things and think that they know what is true and what is not just based upon appearances. So they're seeking after the truth. They reject some suppositions that are presented to them and lay hold of others. And that's what we all do. And I think that's kind of what I was trying to say in the last chapter about people not recognizing truth. And I'm not saying that everything I believe is true. But the thing is, there's so much that I've changed. There's so much of my own understanding, my own opinion. What is truth at this moment to me? And that changes, and I'm constantly changing. I made several videos on the calendar a while back, and since then, my understanding has slightly shifted, and so now I've got to go back and re-examine some things. I'm probably going to make another video, and it's going to be something slightly different than what I believed 6 months ago. And I think a lot of some people would probably respect that and be like, "Hey, at least you're able to change." And that's something that for me, when I've seen a teacher before who's changed his opinion based upon new information, that makes me respect him. But the strange thing is that there's so many people out there who will ridicule you for that because you change your understanding to fit the new information you gain. And so, and you hear it in the church, they'll say like, well, this person's just blown around by every wind of doctrine. And it's a way of keeping everybody compartmentalized into these little boxes so that, you have to believe what a Baptist believes. You have to, if you're going to be a Baptist, you have to believe what the Methodists believe if you want to be a Methodist. And it's a way to keep people in the camp. by ridiculing anyone who changes their opinion about something. I would encourage all of you as the listeners to change your opinion about things. Don't, read people that you disagree with. Because a lot of times when I read a book by somebody I disagree with, it changes my opinion about something. It changes my understanding. If you only ever read books that reinforce what you believe, you're never going to get to the truth. So reject some suppositions, lay hold of others, um, while they do not know what things are true and what are false. So uh, back to the calendar issue. I believe, now I used to keep a lunar calendar. I used to keep, the sighted moon calendar, and then for a while I kept the conjunction moon calendar and such and so forth. Um, Now I've become convinced that the solar calendar is the way to go. But people will fight you tooth and nail on that, and it's not. And the thing is, a lot of their argument is, when it really comes down to it, is they don't want to consider anything different. Like they want to stick with what everyone else is doing. Um, so they're going to hold to what they are used to, when in reality they don't know what things are true and what are false. They dogmatize concerning truth, even those who are seeking after truth, not knowing that he who seeks truth cannot learn it from his own wandering. For not even, as I said, can he recognize her when she stands by him, since he is unacquainted with her. So even when truth is right in front of your face, you can't recognize it because you don't know the truth. And so, again, this is all coming back to, why do we need the true prophet? Okay, so we're at 30 minutes. Good place to stop. And we'll come back and continue with chapter 8 of the second homily. Shalom.